Welcome to Unheard Voices, where we breathe life into forgotten, overlooked, or silent stories from history. Today, we speak with three visionaries who changed the world, not by shouting the loudest, but by daring to exist, resist, and persist. We begin in the late 19th century with a young girl who, after illness took her sight and hearing, still found a way to make the world listen. Helen Keller, can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you became deaf and blind?
Hello, thank you for having me. I was born in 1880 and became deaf and blind at 19 months old due to high fever. This condition presented numerous challenges for me throughout my life.
What kind of challenges did you face in your early years, particularly in terms of education and social interactions?
Well, my family struggled so much to find a suitable educational resources for me, and I was always excluded from the societal activities due to my disability. In fact, my parents were even advised to lock me away, looking at the societal attitude towards people with disability at that time.
And tell me, how did your teacher, Anne Sullivan, impact your life and education?
And she played an important role in my life, enabling me to learn and thrive despite my disability. With her support, I was able to overcome the challenges I faced and go on to achieve great things.
Despite your remarkable abilities and achievements, what kind of discrimination and perhaps skepticism did you face?
I faced widespread discrimination and doubt throughout my life. Many people doubted my capacity for intellectual pursuits, and I was always subjected to patronizing and belittling attitude and behavior.
How did your experiences with discrimination impact your professional life and advocacy work?
Well, my experiences with discrimination motivated me to become a tireless advocate for the rights of people with disabilities like me. Through my writings and lectures, I challenged societal attitudes towards disability and fought for greater accessibility and inclusion.
What legacy have you left behind, and how does your story continue to inspire and empower individuals with disabilities?
My legacy is one of resilience, determination, and advocacy. My story continues to inspire and empower individuals with disabilities, highlighting the importance of accessibility, inclusion, and equal opportunities.
Thank you. This was Helen Keller. For our second special guest of the day, we are bringing back Dr. Alice Augusta Ball, a brilliant chemist who, at just 23, developed the first effective treatment for leprosy. She died tragically young in 1916 at only 24 years old. Her discovery saved countless lives, yet her name was almost completely erased from history. Alice, thank you for joining us in spirit and memory.
Thank you. It's strange, but also comforting to finally be heard.
Let's go back to the beginning. You were born in Seattle in 1892. What kind of world did you grow up in?
I was born in Seattle, and it was in a world that didn't expect much from someone like me. I was a black girl in a segregated America, and though my family was educated and supportive, I always knew I would have to work twice as hard and still might not be recognized.
But you didn't let that stop you. You studied chemistry, became the first black woman, actually the first woman ever to graduate with a master's in chemistry from the University of Hawaii.
Yes, chemistry was my passion. I loved solving problems, working in the lab as well. I never saw myself as a groundbreaker. I just wanted to do good science. But being the only woman, in fact, the only black woman, it was isolating, but still I kept going.
And then, at just 23, you developed something remarkable, what would later be called the Ball method. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, it was a treatment for leprosy. At the time, people with leprosy were exiled, so sent away, and left without real hope. The only available treatment was a certain oil called chalmogra, which couldn't be absorbed by the body. I figured out how to modify the oil's chemical structure to make it injectable, and that way it became effective, and suddenly patients started recovering. It was basically everything I had worked for.
But your name wasn't credited, Alice.
No, I died suddenly at 24 before I could publish the research. And after my death, the president of the university, Arthur Dean, published it under his name. He called it the Dean method. For decades, no one knew it was mine. I disappeared from the whole story.
That must have been devastating.
Not just for me, but for every black girl who might have seen herself in me. Recognition matters, not because we need praise, but because visibility tells the next generation, you belong here too. When we are erased, it sends the opposite message.
Today, people are finally learning your name. The University of Hawaii honors you with Alice Bolday. History is being corrected.
Yes, and I'm very grateful. But I also know that there are countless others whose stories were never recovered. We need to keep asking who else was left out. History is full of silences, especially when it comes to black women in science.
Alice, if you could leave one message for listeners today, what would it be?
I would say that brilliance exists everywhere, across race, gender, and class, but opportunity does not. We need to change that. And we need to keep telling the stories of those who were overlooked. We were always here. We always mattered.
Once again, Alice Augusta Ball, chemist, pioneer, truth teller. Thank you for being with us today, Alice.
And thank you for listening.
Born in Harlem in 1927 to Jamaican immigrant parents, while many know him as the King of Calypso, with one of his most famous songs being They Owe and being the first Black American to receive an Emmy, his true legacy lies in his activism. Inspired by his mentor, Paul Robeson, Belafonte believed art and activism were inseparable. He used his fame not for personal gain, but as a platform to fight for justice. Isn't that right, Harry?
That's right. I'm glad you bring it up.
What made you get into activism?
It was the deliberate choice shaped by my life experiences, my identity, and the times I lived in. I grew up as a black and a poor person in both Harlem and Jamaica. I saw and lived the realities of systemic racism, colonialism, and economic oppression from an early age. I wasn't an artist who became an activist. I was an activist who became an artist. I will never forget the humiliations and limitations placed on black people. That burning sense of injustice shaped my worldview.
Did you have someone who perhaps showed you that art and activism are connected?
Yes, indeed. Paul Robeson, who, by the way, was a legendary singer, actor, and outspoken civil rights activist, showed me that art could be used as a weapon in the struggle for justice. Robeson taught me that being a black artist came with responsibility, to speak out, to fight, to represent. That stuck with me for life.
Mm-hmm. And are there any other people you would like to mention that were inspiring during your activism career?
Well, Martin and me, we had a very close, almost brother-like bond.
Wait, you mean Martin Luther King?
That's right, the Martin Luther King. I often hosted meetings in his home, paid bail for his activists, and financed civil rights campaigns. Martin Luther King's vision sharpened my sense of purpose. Our partnership pushed me deeper into the action.
How did Hollywood react toward your activism?
Even after I became a huge star, Hollywood still tried to box me in. Roles were limited, stereotyped, even demeaning, and I refused to play that game. I used my fame as leverage to speak out rather than stay silent. If the system wouldn't change, I would challenge it, even if it cost me.
Do you feel like your activism was solely motivated by American policies or structural racism?
Having roots in Jamaica and traveling internationally, I saw that struggles for freedom were connected. From Harlem to Johannesburg, from Selma to South America, I wasn't content to fight only domestic injustice. I believed in liberation for all oppressed people.
Harry, if you could leave one message for listeners today, what would it be?
My one message would be, you can cage the singer, but not the song.
3 lives, 3 battles, fought in silence, in song, and in science. Helen, Harry, and Alice. This was today's episode of Unheard Voices. Thank you for listening.